Good morning, one. Good morning, all. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams, coming at you from Dumaguete City, the city of gentle people, Negros Oriental, the Philippines. Area code 6200 for any of those interested in writing to our mailing address, our fan club. Today is December 14th, 2016, and this is a live cast on This Week in the Philippines. So basically what I do here is I just pull 3 topics from the headlines that could affect people, expatriates, foreigners, living, working, studying, visiting the Philippines. And as you know, I'm sure most of you have been following some of the stuff, there's some interesting stuff going on. First, some business. If you actually want to read the article, you can go down to the video description box and check it out. I put up the article yesterday. It's pretty short, it's pretty concise, it's pretty to the point. Also, if you want to order our book, it's over a 400-page book on living, studying, working, visiting the Philippines. You can check that out. It's got a 100% money-back guarantee. It was written by myself and 2 other authors who have been here for a long time. And there's a lot of good information on that. And the entire time we've been selling the book, I've never had to do the money back because nobody's ever requested it. But again, if you get the book and you don't like it for whatever reason, just send me an email and I'll send you your money back. I'm going to be checking the comment section in a little while. I just don't want this to turn into like an hour-long live cast podcast type thing. So, and also don't forget that we're using Philippines Internet. We're using PLDT Home and DSL. And the upload speed is about 0.5. And you can experience some buffering sometimes. And also this is going to be in 360p, so the video quality isn't going to be all that great. But let's get right into it. First off, hope you're all well. Hope everybody's doing well all over the world, to wherever our viral transmission is reaching. And let's get into it. This Week in the Philippines, December 14th, 2016. First up, Donnie and Roddy, best friends forever. For those who haven't heard, President Duterte recently chatted with President-elect Donald Trump. The short phone call evidently pleased the Philippines' hard-charging president, who now considers the Donald a kaibigan, which is Tagalog for friend. President Duterte reported that President-elect Trump wished him victory in his war against illegal drugs. This support coming from quite a different direction than those of many other national leaders and international agencies who have spoken out against the thousands of Filipino citizens who have been killed in the streets in the ongoing salvage operations. President-elect Trump then went on to say that they should try to repair the quote-unquote bad relations between the two nations. Duterte said, quoting Trump, "You just did something good here, and you're doing great. I know you're worried about these Americans criticizing you. You are doing good. That's why I'm very impressed with you." When asked by a reporter about the bombastic Philippines president's policies, President-elect Trump simply pointed out the realities of the situation. Well, hey, look, this is bad stuff. They sliced them up. They carved their initials in the girl's forehead, okay? What are we supposed to do? Be nice about it? So, something good coming out about this recent election, it seems to be the warming of relations between these two kindred souls, like attracting like. That's good, but it can also be bad, as we're going to see in a little bit. Next up, second piece of news. It's no longer more fun in the Philippines. Don't forget that as of January 2017, that's less than a month away, the Philippines will be changing its tourism slogan of "It's More Fun in the Philippines." The Department of Tourism campaign was launched with much fanfare back in 2012 and quickly became popular throughout the nation. Unfortunately, this local enthusiasm did not translate internationally, and a recent Nielsen study found that the slogan did little to actually attract tourism. The new campaign, which will kick off with the Miss Universe pageant in Manila, will attempt to be more specific as to why foreign tourists should visit the sunny archipelago. Said a member of the Philippines Department of Tourism, "We would like to reinforce the Philippines brand and definitely inject more unique Philippine experience with the local cuisine and culture to make it more authentic," she added. The Secretary of the Department of Tourism also shrugged off a question as to whether alleged extrajudicial killings were impacting tourism. She replied that arrivals are increasing and that tourism revenues generated by millions of visitors, I think it's going to be like 6 million this year, increased 10% in the past year to $450 million US. She also noted that the majority of the tourists are from Korea and accounted for nearly a third of that revenue. So we can't forget, because a lot of times we get whitewashed and we only see the other foreigners as being white. The vast majority of the foreigners in the Philippines are actually from Asia. The majority are Korean, and you cannot usually identify them. They're taller than Filipinos. They got lighter skin. They usually have a big hat on. They like to walk in the street for some reason and not utilize the few sidewalks that they have here. And they also, and I'm not trying to be racist or stereotype, but they have this certain way of walking where when I'm driving along and I see a group of people ahead, if they're Korean, I can usually identify them through that. So that's it. I don't know what the new slogan's going to be. I can only imagine, but it should be interesting. And I actually liked, because the Department of Tourism put out a couple videos that made the Philippines look like a supercharged versions of, like the Virgin Islands or something. So we'll see what happens with that. Finally, before we get to the comments, Trump and BPOs. The election of Donald Trump to the presidency of the United States could have severe repercussions for Philippine call centers. Trade was a key component in this past year's campaign, with Trump repeatedly stating that he would take jobs that have been outsourced to other countries back to the United States. And if the Donald follows through and does indeed repatriate these overseas jobs back to the U.S., this onshoring, that's what they call it when you return jobs back, could impact the massive business process outsourcing companies that operate in the Philippines. A staggering number of American businesses operate call centers and other BPOs in the Philippines. Indeed, 75% of the BPOs operating are contracted with American companies, Apple, Verizon, AT&T, and the like. All told, and these are some pretty amazing figures. All told, the BPO industry brought approximately $22 billion US to the Philippines and employed more than 1 million Filipinos. High tariffs, basically fines, for U.S. businesses contracting for outsourced work in the Philippines would be bad enough for the local economy. And if the new U.S. administration actually takes steps to return those jobs back to America, the tiger of Asia, that is the Philippines, it's the fastest growing economy around, could find itself bundled up in a canvas sack and shaved in short order. In short, and even though government and financial officials are downplaying concerns, the loss of those jobs would be catastrophic for the local Philippine economy. So there's some interesting stuff going on. Again, this is a question of having to wait to see how it plays out. But with these strong characters that are President Duterte and President-elect Donald Trump, and the fact that Duterte now considers Trump his kaibigan, his good friend, and he's invited him over for coffee or something. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The dollar is still doing well. The Philippine peso isn't doing that great. I think it's the lowest it's been in like 7 or 8 years. And also some inflation is starting to kick in. If you go to Chooks to Go, and that's my favorite place on Mondays and Tuesdays, I usually get those beautiful chickens that they have at Chooks to Go, those barbecue chickens. They're fantastic. They were 180 pesos, and now they bumped them up to 200 pesos. I'm sorry, they bumped it up 10 pesos, 190 pesos to 200 pesos. So we're seeing an increase there. But again, it's not just about the economics. People come here for certain reasons, and people that stay here long term aren't basically here for the superficial reasons. They're usually a little more. It takes a certain type of person to live as a foreigner in the Philippines long term. You got to be a little crazy. You got to be think a little outside of the box. All right, so that's this live stream as far as it goes with the news stories. Let's get to the comments. Steve says, good morning. M. Chung, Hugo, hi from Canada. Brian Dawson, hello, Ned. Sacco Balls says, I'm the first scrotum to say something in the chat. All right, welcome back, Sack of Balls. It's good to see you. Somebody stopped their workout just to listen in. Oh, it's not that important, man. You can always listen to it later, too. Good seeing you at softball on Saturday. Yeah, Don, thank you. And I'm going to be putting that video up. Again, I think that's one of the greatest programs that I've seen here in the Philippines as far as relations between foreigners here and the local community. Basically, there's a foreigner softball association, and they play like the local colleges. And it's generally older foreigners, playing these highly skilled young Filipinos, but they're still out there, and it's a win-win-win for all involved. I think it's a great idea, and I'll be putting up, I did a short video on that. I'll be putting it up. Jason St. Pierre, hi from Casco, Maine. 6 inches of snow and cold. Yeah, I don't miss that. Hello, Ray says hello from frigid Chicago. Denise, hi from Massachusetts. It's good to hear from Massachusetts. I haven't been back there for a long time. Somebody said my volume is very low. My volume is very low. Sorry. Testing, testing. But I can't turn up the gain. As you heard, you probably heard that dog barking, because we have a dog in a metal cage right on the other side of our wall. So we can't get too crazy with that. Wally Brown says, can I afford the extra 10 pesos? Yes. It translates to about 27 cents. I think I can swing that. And those are delicious chickens. Those are like the best chickens I've ever had in my life. Donald brings up a good point. The companies that operate call centers couldn't afford to operate in the United States. That's what this globalization is happening. That's why it's harming a lot of first world nations, because again, like Donald noted, they're going to have to pay American workers a lot more. Plus, we have an aging population, so you have a smaller work pool to choose from. So yeah, that's going to cause some problems, and that's one of the reasons the Philippines isn't too concerned about it, because they're like, this isn't really economically feasible. So what I think is going to happen, and I'm no economist, I don't know anything about this stuff. But what I see is the Trump administration hitting these companies with high tariffs, high fees for outsourcing. So at least they're making some money, and there's some money coming back to America. I don't see them, you know, taking 1 million jobs, 750,000 jobs back. Ned, what company did you use to send Balik Bayan boxes? LBC is my favorite, and there's also Forex. We had really bad experience with some Pinoy Transit or something that was operating out of Texas that sent 3 Balik Bayan boxes full of stuff for the kids. So I would not recommend that. Forex and LBC. And what you do is you just find where your local Filipino or Asian market is, and that's where you can usually do that for. Tony asks, Red Horse or San Miguel? San Miguel, that's definitely my choice. Red Horse is just too strong. I don't like tasting that alcohol. Ugh. The Canadian rate is around 37 to 35. Yeah, Canada's been doing better against the peso. Australia took a bad hit over the last couple of years, and they seem to be doing better as well. Gig 1, the U.S. government is paying companies in the Philippines huge money to train Filipinos for call center work. Yeah, they probably are. And some of these, like, when you look at Qualphone, Qualphone's actually owned by this Mexican billionaire. He's like the Mexican Trump, who's going to build a wall. They're both going to build walls. And those organizations are massive. Like the ones in Dumaguete, they actually have 2 sites now because they outgrew their first site. And the second site, Qualphone Site 2, is this massive building. And I didn't know those numbers. Those, I mean, 22 billion US dollars and employing 1 million Filipinos. But you have a college-educated, English-speaking population, and I've always had good experience. I can remember the bad old days when you call India for customer support and you couldn't understand each other. But when you call the Philippines, you can understand each other. They're very polite. You know, they have that sir, mom thing drilled into them as a part of their pakikisama, that smooth interpersonal relations. Tampa, Florida's here. Somebody got 3680. Oh, for Australia. Yeah, I was gonna say, ooh, man, you got taken. Because I think it's 49 something right here for USD. Somebody's KI4GLX says, who could trust Trump? I have a dog that has better manners, and I am definitely not saying that bitch would have been any better. LMAO. America has to wake up. Yeah, we're in for an interesting 4 to 8 years. That definitely goes without saying. I get my news. I usually listen to NPR or BBC, and I have Flipboard on my tablet, and I've been following the news, and every day there seems to be something crazy. Jeremy Parsons. Oh, last time I was this early, it was still hot in Dumaguete. It's still warm here. Today's actually a nice day. It's starting off to be a nice day. It's 9:49. And Jeremy, for some reason, all your comments go into my spam folder. I have no idea why that happens. So if you ever see yourself commenting and you don't see the comments published, they automatically go to my spam folder. I probably got to figure out a way to not have that happen. Elmar said, yeah, his upload speed is 0.5 meg. Maybe that's the reason. Or it could just be this cheap Chinese headset. Wally Brown says, I know you live in Dumaguete, but can I get your opinion on Bohol? We've never been there. I've never been there. But I know guys that live there, and they love it. I know an American couple living over there, and they live near Tagbilaran, which is near Alona Beach. They actually live on Alona Beach, and they actually love it. And I think Mike DeFazio, didn't he live on Bohol for a while? I have no idea where he is now. Do you know he's a flat earther? If you ever want to get down and go down into a real rabbit hole, type into YouTube Flat Earth or Flat Earth Society. These are the people that think that the world isn't round, it's actually flat, and that, you know, satellite imagery and the moon landing and all that stuff are faked. It's interesting. But you got to be careful what rabbit holes you go down to. Because I've noticed one thing, and I got to talk about this really briefly before I let you guys go, because I know you got more important things to do than listen to me babble. There's some real negativity going on in the Philippines vlog society. You know, there's some guys out there that are really putting out some really negative stuff, and there's some really bad attitudes and some real nasty stuff going on. And I made a mistake, and I might have mentioned this before, but there was a few sites that came up, and there's one that's been around with us for a while, and not going to say any names, and I went down that rabbit hole, and I was actually listening to them, and I got into a really bad space. I got into a really negative space, and this was actually when I was sick. So it was like my sickness was compounded by my mental trauma after listening to all this stuff. And I don't know why guys get so negative and get so nasty. I don't see how productive it can be. Yeah, there's some strange dudes out there, and there's some strange things going on. But I also think that's a pretty accurate reflection on the type of foreigners that are here in the Philippines living long term. Again, they're not your typical normal foreigner, because I don't think those guys can last long term here. It takes a special type, a special Ned type of person, special ed, to live here long term. And sometimes those personalities can be a little out there. Sometimes they can be a little off. You got some, you know, some personality disorders kicking off. I've run into a lot of guys here with personality disorders, and we all have them, but it seems to be magnified with the population of the foreigners here in the Philippines. It's strange, and I'd heard about it, and I've seen it over the years, but it's also being reflected in the vlog community, because there's some really nasty stuff coming out. It's just a bummer. Totally unnecessary. Lewis says, NPR, BBC, ha ha ha. I know, people think that's like there's some left liberal progressive organizations, but they're not. If you actually, you know, do the research on the most objective news sources, you'll see NPR, BBC, and PBS usually near the top, unlike that MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. Joe says, we'll be moving there next year, and I'm enjoying my eggnog and Jameson. Is eggnog available there? I have no idea. But I'll tell you what I had the other day. There's that dog barking. I don't know if you can hear it. He's in a cage on the other side of the wall. It's this German Shepherd, and the cage is only like this big. And it's got no roof, so when it rains, the poor thing just howls. I don't know if eggnog's available here, but yesterday I had some homemade yogurt that was absolutely fantastic, and there was something else I had that was just creamy goodness. I'll tell you what I miss. I miss Dunkin' Donuts, and I think they have them now, the Dunkin' Donuts pumpkin spice coffees. That stuff's like freaking liquid crack. Don Goodman says, Bohol is nice, but Dumaguete is better. Spent a few months in Panglao. Yeah, I really like Dumaguete. It's the perfect size town. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's got all the amenities here that you need, the shopping, some decent restaurants. Mark says, yeah, don't say his name, that I won't, because it's like Candyman. If you say his name 3 times in front of the mirror, he'll appear in front of you. He's an interesting character. They're bored and have no life? Yeah, possibly. But, you know, there's a couple of them that are just so out there. They can't even, they lack the insight to see the damage and the harm that their actions and their words cost. And then they get attacked in return, and then they get all like defensive, and they start playing the victim card and all that. And I think that's interesting. And there was one guy I was following just because he was such a pure sociopath. But I can't watch his stuff anymore because he's just so negative. Hi Ned, can you say good day to old mate Mick living in the Camotes? Steve currently living in Portland. Hello Mick in the Camotes. I think they have good mangoes there. And hello Steve in Portland, Oregon. Wally said, I'll listen to BBC but not NPR, just a personal preference. Yeah, I like BBC because even when they're reporting bad news, like a catastrophic earthquake or something, those British accents just make it sound so much less horrific. You know, that cultured accents. But I love NPR. I really do. I listen to a lot of their shows. If you go to their site, npr.org, actually a lot of their programs are there for you to listen to. You can stream them. And that's what I listen to usually while I'm working. Oscar says, my daughter works for NPR for almost 20 years, and she freaks out if her kids tell a little lie. Oh, that's something I wanted to talk about really quick, is this post-truth era that we have entered. You know how Webster's adds words to the dictionary every year? One of the ones that was added this year was post-truth, which is, and if you're not aware of it, and I'm sure everybody's aware of it by now, which is basically fake news, people believing fake news and going by their ideology and beliefs rather than actual facts. And it seems to be affecting one side more than another. There was actually this guy who lives in California, and he's a Democrat. He was actually the one responsible for the story about the FBI agent that was investigating Hillary's emails. He was murdered and his house was burnt down in this fictional city, in this with this fictional sheriff and all that. And he made tens of thousands of dollars off that because they have advertising running on their page. And the conservatives, you know, I think it's called bias confirmation, when something comes out that confirms their bias. So they shared it on social media, and it really blew up. So, and Donald Trump, and you know, you guys know I'm a liberal, socialist, progressive, hippie, but he is really post-truth. He just believes what he believes and everything else. He's not doing intelligence briefings because, you know, he thinks that the information coming from the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, and all these other agencies, DIA, is all bullshit. And he said something like, I'm smart, I can figure it out, I don't have to go to these briefings. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen. Hopefully there's checks and balances. Brian asked, have you used a Fire Stick there in the Philippines? Yes, I have. It works very well. You load Kodi onto it. You find sites that work well. Not all the sites work well, so you got to find the sites that stream well. It works really well if you load up Netflix. We got Netflix Philippines. It works fantastic. And again, I'm a big proponent of Netflix Philippines. It streams really well. We have 8 megabit PLDT, and it streams at no problem at 720. NPR Music is great. Yep. David says, after being here for 6 months, I think that it is better in the Philippines than in the States. Everyone seems to be angry in the West. Yeah, there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of divisiveness going on. People are taking sides. People are on teams. And nobody can understand the other team. Bougie Boy says, U.S. is going crazy. Don't go home. Well, I want to go home. I got to visit at some point. Probably around April, May, when it gets really hot here. Time to go. Who decides what is fake news? Well, the Pizzagate story, for example. That's fake news. The FBI agent being killed in this fictional town and this fictional sheriff and all this stuff, that's fake news. People have to do the research. And this guy in California who actually did the story about the FBI agent's house being, him being murdered and the house burning down, he specifically targets conservatives because he tried doing it with progressives, liberals, but they always go to Snopes or whatever to fact check, and they didn't have as much traction with the liberal crowd as they have with the conservative crowd. Because again, there's that bias confirmation. I have bias confirmation. Everybody has bias confirmation. If there's a fake news story about Trump and I read it, and I'm going to be like, yeah, that's true, yeah, I'm going to go share that with all my friends. And then if somebody brings it to my attention that it's fake, maybe I'll go, maybe. But Trump doesn't believe any of that stuff. And there's some guys, and you guys know people like this. We all know people like this. The conspiracy theorists. Those guys, they are set in their mind. They have the ideology. It's it's, you know, chemtrails and the school shooting, Sandy Hook being staged. Steve Bannon, Alex Jones, all those guys. Pete, Trump supporter there. Luke Cage is a real badass. Yeah, I see it advertised. I haven't checked it out yet. Confirmation bias. Bias, that's right, confirmation bias. Or bias confirmation. I'm not sure. But yeah, it's an interesting term. And we all have it. We all suffer from it. Sacco Ball says, I don't think Pizzagate is fake news. Okay. Alright, so that's basically it. I try to do these live casts like once a week, once every 2 weeks. Just to talk about the things that are affecting or could affect all of us living here, studying here, working here in the Philippines. I have a couple of buddies who run BPOs, business process outsourcing companies here in the Philippines, and they're concerned about this. There's a lot of guys here. I was talking to a gentleman who runs a Turkish little restaurant stall here, and he makes gyros, and they were fantastic. And he ran a BPO call center up in Luzon and Angeles City for 2 years. So there's a lot of people that actually work here that are foreigners that could be affected by this. And the million plus Filipinos that are working in call centers and BPOs. Alright, so again, I hope everybody is well. If it's cold where you are, just remember that sometimes, a lot of times of the year, it's too hot here. Check out our book, check out our website. The dog is starting up again. Poor dog. And this is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams. Thanks to everybody for commenting, and I'll see you next time. Peace out. Michelle's sleeping because she drank Coke yesterday. She had an 8-ounce Coke, and she's not going to be able to sleep. Hey, there's the photo. That photo just went by of the solar array at Robinson's Mall. Take care, y'all. Peace out.